Is it still morning? It's still morning. It's still morning. Good morning. It's late morning. The reason why I didn't get on early this morning, aside from deciding I just wanted to lounge around in my bed for a while and then take a leisurely shower, is that I was on this Clubhouse app. Good morning. I was on this Clubhouse app listening to millionaires speak about their stories and the how they amassed their wealth and where they came from. And listening to their stories is quite interesting because there are a lot of assumptions that are made about people with wealth because we only see but a few in the spotlight. This room had a fairly equal mix of black millionaires, white millionaires, women millionaires, men millionaires. There was even a Gen Zer in there. And so the reason why I like this is because it breaks down, and sometimes it makes me so angry. It breaks down the perception that we have of what wealth is. How the hell does this tie into the title? Because what I was teaching was never just about sex. And what I teach isn't going to be just about sex. And that's the evolution of my process personally. Because I came into this, and I'm going to get back to that wealth in a second. I came into this starting to do this wanting to expand people sexually. It's kind of like how I started my personal how my personal training, how that developed into talking about sex. So as a personal trainer, I wanted to help people have like better bodies, look better. And then that turned into conversations about life. And then that turned into conversations about why they wanted to look better, which led to sex. And I was like, okay, well maybe sex. So I started talking about sex because people wanted to know about sex, and so having a better sex life meant having a better this, but wait, really, what's underneath all of that? So I'm getting to the place where it's what's underneath all of that. I'm still going to talk about sex, just probably not as publicly. Like in the coven, we're going to talk about blood magic and sex with that. I'm not going to talk about that here on Facebook though, or on Instagram. So I'm still going to talk about sex. But what's underneath that? So going back to let me see if this is cooled off yet. So going back to the room with the millionaires, and let's weave this together. Listening to the people in the room speak about wealth, as I listen to them more and more, it really sinks in that the money is the outcome of the thought process. Everything we do is an outcome of our thought processes. How we see ourselves, how we view ourselves in relation to the rest of the world. We keep trying to fix these surface things, thinking that's going to solve whatever the problem is. And then we don't want to get too woo woo about it. Like, no, we don't want to get like, we don't, Like, so The Secret had some good gems in it, right? And you can apply The Secret to your sex life. But people have to dig deeper than that. What's going on in our world, what's going on in your life, what's going on in your bedroom, what's going on in your pocketbook, all comes back to you. You. How are you thinking of yourself and perceiving yourself in the world? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not marginalized. Do not ever refer to me as that. Do not ever refer to me as someone who has less than because I've got melanin in my skin. The fuck is wrong with you? I'm a child of the divine. Now I may have started out in this life in a different car. It's like when you run a relay race and you got the four folk and there's always somebody who's on the outer corner, like the person on the inner track's got a little bit of the upper hand, right? Because of the way circumference runs, it seems like it's the faster way. Do those motherfuckers always win? Hell no. Hell no. That's why they can keep running the race that way. They put the person on the outside a little farther in the front to give them some headway. But it could be the person somewhere in the middle that wins. It's really, how bad do you want to win the race? So it doesn't matter where you start, is what I'm saying. And we have to really start getting to that point. We all have a story, y'all. We all have a story. I listen to these people who make millions talk about their stories of pain, regardless of color, of where they have come from. The trials and tribulations they have been through, from all kinds of abuses to poverty. None of this should happen to a human being. I think we're all clear on that. Like, we don't want anyone to go through this. The pain that some people have gone through is, oh my God. The question doesn't start to become, it's not about, well, I shouldn't have gone through this or that. It's what can I do with it? This is hard because we live in a world that wants to tell us that because we may have had a certain life, been born a certain way, have had certain experiences, that somehow it's just gonna kind of suck a little bit more for us. That's what I hear. When people try to, it's like, it's gonna suck a little bit more for you. It's gonna be harder for you. And so because it is, it's okay if you don't do well. We understand why. Because it's just harder for you. I don't really like how that feels in my body. And before anyone thinks that this is, there's this thing about blaming the victim. There's a difference between saying what happened to you is your fault, whatever it is that happened is your fault. That's blame. No one should do that to anyone for anything. There's a difference between that, which is blaming anyone, period, and saying to someone, so what would you like your life to look like now? What would you like your life to become moving forward? Versus because of whatever circumstances or thing, you're just stuck. You're just stuck. So I realized it was never just about the sex. Sex is a healing modality. See, sex is a way to heal those things. I'm not just talking about fucking and intercourse, though those can be healing too if you're already aligned and in right space. Sex can be a healing pathway to rewire the brain. When you study psychology, you learn that when people go through trauma, it literally shifts your brain. Like and we've all gone through something, right? So no one's walking around here with like a pristine brain. Okay? But the more different types of trauma you exhibit and at younger ages, it can change the way neurotransmitters act in your brain. Literally, it will shift the way you see the world on a physiological, like on a biological, and on a psychological basis, right? So you bring those two together, and it creates a story for you of how you see the world. The reason why somatic work and sex is part of somatic work is so important is because it not only gets at the thought processes, right? Because that's great. Like therapy gets at the thinking. It helps to shift the thinking. But it doesn't always get at the body, which is where stuff still sits. And that's why you're like, I've been going to therapy for 10 years and my life is it's still not shifting. You might want to look at the body. And so somatic work helps to release what's stuck in the nervous system because your nervous system has now become wired to react to the world a certain way. Sex is a modality to help heal that. And that's why it was never just about sex. Anyone can learn how to suck better dick, lick better pussy. Anyone can learn how to like do some strokes and learn some, some hip movements. Anybody can do that. Just take some dance classes, do some hula hoop, you know? Take a rhythm cowgirl class. Tayomi Morgan has some great classes for that, by the way. Do some yoga, some stretches. Anybody can learn how to do some better positions. But do you know how to stop seeing yourself as a failure? Do you know how to stop being afraid of your greatness? Do you know how to approach sex without having flashbacks of something else or someone else? Do you know how to show up in your life with joy? Do you know about forgiveness? Do you have good boundaries? Are you able to know when to kind of stay and play and when to walk away? Now Kenny Rogers is in my head. Um, do you know these things? Because if you do, you're going to have better sex. You're going to have better sex. You're going to choose better. It's going to feel better. Hey, it could be missionary all day, every day, and it's still going to feel like the greatest shit ever. You're not going to be worried about, sexually transmitted demons and all that and the energy. You're not going to be worried about that because you're good, you're shielded, you're grounded, you're sovereign, you're in your body, you are aligned, you are the tree of your life. You're going to have better sex that way. You're going to have greater wealth that way, greater abundance that way. It's not just about the sex. I'm listening to these people talk, and it's really like it's working its way through my body. So I happen to be a very embodied person. And I suspect that I've always been that way, and I think that a lot of people are. First of all, I think all human beings are very embodied. I really do. I think that, and I don't have any scientific proof of this. This is why I'm saying I think. This is my opinion. When things happen to us and we feel the need to shield or shut down, our bodies shut down. I could be wrong, but I feel like for women this is especially detrimental because it also shuts off our intuition. That feeling mechanism that we have that says this doesn't feel quite right. It's not broken, it's just it needs to be adjusted. And so when we're not embodied for a variety of reasons, anything from some serious abuse to just having to grow up too fast, right? You're the oldest girl, you're 8 years old, You got one parent, one caregiver. You got to take care of the two younger siblings. You don't really have time to play. You got to get to it, right? You got to pick folks up from school. You got to be aware of the dangers in the world. You're trying to help cook some dinner, make sure their homework's done, your homework's done. There are 8-year-olds doing this, right? You don't have time to be embodied. By the time you're 13, you feel like you done lived some life already. Like but you're not embodied. And you're not feeling anything. And life is hard. And it's rough. You're having sex, but you're not really feeling the orgasms. Like you got toughness. This is damaging to us as women, to not be in our body, to not feel. And then some of us get to the point where whatever those circumstances were as adult women, to begin to open up and feel that, like right here in our heart space. Check the breast cancer rates though, y'all, because that's heart chakra right there. That's all of that. To open that up, the amount of grief and loss, stolen childhoods, stolen experiences. We don't want to feel that. It hurts. Part of somatic work and part of opening yourself in that way, and part of what sex does is it helps you work through that grief, that sense of loss, the anger at the fact that you had to endure whatever this is, and the why question. And then the ability to extract from that, to spin that's the alchemy. We all have something to alchemize. The acceptance of it, and then the opening that happens, the expanse, now that you don't have to contract anymore to hold the grief at bay, to hold the pain at bay. You don't have to do that anymore. You can open. Nipples erect, feeling spicy, and not from an outward perspective of, yeah, like I'm a bad bitch. But nah, feeling spicy from like your uterus up through your throat. Made my throat chakra tingle. Make my throat chakra be like, oh. Give you a throat orgasm. We were talking about that last night in Clubhouse too. Oh man, if you have an orgasm from giving the gift of fellatio, listen, it's a thing. See, I told you I still gonna talk about sex, but gotta tie it back in, right? Gotta tie it back in. So it's not just about the sex. It's not just about the money. It's what's underneath all of that. It's really, how do you feel about yourself and your worth and what you think you deserve? Are you going to let other people constantly tell you who you are? Because that's what happens. All of a sudden, some phrase pops up in the news and people are like, oh yeah, that's me. You just let someone else define you. And they do it for political purposes, and yet you reap no benefits. What is the benefit of someone calling you a marginalized individual? Does it change anything in your community? Are you receiving an influx of funds? Have your schools somehow brightened up because you're a marginalized person? Are your housing opportunities all of a sudden different? I'm not talking about the laws that are in place. That's great. And does calling you a marginalized individual create laws that assist you on a is it working on your day to day? But you've allowed them to define you and now say this is the box you are in. And you already know, if you saw my video on the labels, this is the box you're in, and so this is how we're going to relate to you. By the way, there's a man who is on a board. There's a bank, it's called Maxwell Bank. um, it happens to be a black owned bank. It is an international bank. I don't think he thinks he's marginalized and he wasn't born with wealth. Eh? I was just listening to something on a Daily Show, and I need to find out the author. Um, I feel bad because I'm gonna quote her and talk about her book, and I don't remember, so I'm gonna put it in a separate post because it's only right. And she was speaking about a book that she wrote about white male mediocrity, and I'm bringing this up because it you'll see in a minute. And she spoke about how part of the reason that white men are angry is because they keep getting told the story that they're supposed to have all this stuff, right? Like this, like it's like Tony Montana, like this is my world, right? Right? I'm supposed to have all of this, and it's like if you just do these things, you can be just like us wealthy folk over here. And not all wealthy folk, because we just debunked that myth, right? But like this group, if you do these things, you can be one of us. And they're like, yeah. And they keep doing the things, and they're still never one of them. They're never one of them. And then they're sad and they're angry. And so they figure the reason why they're never one of them is because of one of us. Like, you all must be the reason that I have not gotten my slice of the pie yet. I'm still struggling out here in Wyoming. I'm still struggling here in Appalachia. I'm still struggling here in Mississippi in the bayou. They keep telling me that I have mine and I don't, so it must be because of somebody else. Going back to the labels and identities. This world will have to shift the stories that it keeps telling people. It's like people sitting in the same boat swearing that their section of the boat looks different because they're sitting over in the stern and someone else is in the bow. and it's like, my boat's not yours. And it's like, motherfucker, are you at the welfare office like I am? Because if so, we in the same boat. In order for things to shift, we're going to have to start reimagining and rethinking and refeeling how we see ourselves. And we have to stop buying into the stories that because I have this circumstance, it's going to be so much harder for me. Because that's all you're going to encounter. And we have to stop telling this story to these people that your glory is waiting for you simply because you have less melanin and they toil their whole life and die broke. Like like some magic is supposed to happen because their skin is paler. So folks think it's too hard on one side, folks thinks it's supposed to be easy on the other, and ain't nobody getting shit. And then there's people somewhere, I don't know where, just laughing at the reality show they've just created. Laughing at the reality show they created. Eh? The reality show on Wednesday they created. Because people are letting other people define who they are. And at the root of all of this is pain. It's as though the system that has been set up in this country, well, it's not as though, the system that has been set up in this country is set up to capitalize off of the pain of people. It's like the greatest marketing ploy ever. Let me find your pain point and then I will tell you what I can offer you to make it better. But also, let me create the pain so that I can sell you the elixir to take away the pain that I created. That way I know exactly how much pain I can continue to inflict upon you and exactly which doses of elixir I can give you. So you come to me and you say, you gave me the elixir, it doesn't work. Oh no? Well, how about this one? Oh, okay, I'll take that. No, that didn't work. Oh no? Well, how about this one? And you keep going back for a different medicine, hoping that it will take away the pain that has been created. Until one day you stop and say, hold on. I don't want your elixir anymore. I don't want to buy what you're selling. I think I'm going to just work on this pain myself and I'm going to extract myself from this. And then other people look at you like you're crazy. You need the elixir. This is what keeps us sane. Oh, elixir, you need your TV and you need your social media scrolling and you need your gossip and you need your alcohol in quantities and you need your marijuana beyond medicinal uses because it has to numb you out. And you need your aggravation and your drama and your anxiety and your stress. Like, we're not trying to be perfect humans or anything, are we, right? No, you need your real life. You need that. You need the new car. You need the bigger house. You need to work more hours. You need more debt. You need to be distracted. That's 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 what it is. Until you decide one day to say, "Huh, do I?" So it's not just about the sex, though the sex is a way to assist you in healing the pain so you can be set free. So you don't have to keep finding ways to cover up and contract against your sadness, your grief, your rage. You don't have to keep doing that. You don't have to keep doing that. It is possible to live without that. And sometimes when you've been living in that state for so long, you can't even imagine what it's like. It's like people who've been to prison for so long that living in the outside world feels so foreign that they do things to go right back in because the prison has become safe. The prison is predictable. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to go. When I committed suicide, well, tried to commit suicide, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, you're so insulated, even for just 2 weeks. And your meals are brought to you and you've got your meds and life just slows down and it goes away. And by day 5 or 6 of being in there, you're settled in. Day 8, 9, 10, you're like, yes. And then day 14 comes and you go home. Stepping outside, I remember standing in the doorway of the entrance, like just looking at it and taking a deep breath because I hadn't been outside. And the world was so loud. The traffic, the people, the talking, it was so loud. I wanted to go back in where it was quiet and safe. Many of us have become used to that. We've allowed our experiences, traumas, and other things to create this version of ourselves that now feels like normal, to the point where when we work to shift and extract ourselves, we will purposefully do things, self sabotage, to go back into that safety place. Because even though it sucks and it hurts, it's what we know. Sex helps with that. Somatic work helps with that. It was never just about the sex. It was always about being in service to your truth, in your freedom, in your sovereignty, in your creativity, in your sensuality, and your power. And sex is just one of the ways, and a very fun way to work with that. All right, that's it for today. I'm gonna go get this hair braided. I feel like I look like Tamron Hall though, which is really weird because I don't really watch her show, but I think she has like a similar haircut. So I'm gonna go get my hair re-braided today. Um, Join us in the Sensual Energy Coven. DM me for information on how to join. I'm probably gonna ask you, why would you like to join the coven? I just want to check in with you, see what's coming up for you, see what you're feeling into. It's also a great way to work with me and experience me without having to jump into one of my offerings like Vixen, which will be coming up. Oh my God, Vixen is going to be something else now though, y'all. I'm telling you now, I realize why I haven't been talking about it too much is because there's stuff working its way through me that has to finish processing in order for me to work it through Vixen. Because it's like, I thought it was going to just be like sultry and like deep and dark and we were going to work through fears. And now I'm like, nah, like it's going to be so transformational. And I need to make sure that I am 120% entrenched in that vibration before I continue to really expand on it further. But it's I'm at 98%. Because I can feel it in my body. All right. Hit me up for Sensual Energy Coven. It is open for all women, all femmes, whatever vulva owners. I don't know what the house how I don't know how clear I can make it. I gotta say 3 different things. I don't know. But it is open. I love you. I will see you back here tomorrow.